The Toronto Blue Jays master plan has been revealed as John Schneider has finally come out and revealed the truth behind his plans as it pertains to the Toronto Blue Jays lineup as the regular season inches closer and closer. We're going to break down what he said and discuss what it means going forward, as well as multiple spring training updates. So stay tuned for all that episode, folks. Before we get into it, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. Your guys' support has been absolutely unbelievable, and thank you guys for that as we're approaching 17,000 subscribers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Jays play yet another spring training game today. Obviously, I had a video last night on the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. extension talks and all these different things and how the truth came out behind that. It's an interesting situation, but at the end of the day, we are getting closer and closer to opening day. And what that means is that we're going to start to see regular season lineups really start to come into effect every single day. Now, John Schneider finally came out and revealed what the actual lineups came out yesterday and revealed what the lineups will start to look like. And there's a bunch of different things. We'll dive into the projected lineups later, but I want to dive into some comments made by John Schneider. Before we get into that, I want to touch on Bichette. He says he's enjoying the challenge of hitting leadoff in some spring games like he did yesterday, and has told manager John Schneider that he'd be up for doing so in the regular season. Adds that he's fine with whatever spot he is needed from him. And that's, of course, coming from John Schneider, finally going out on the Blair and Barker show and speaking out on the top four in the Jays opening day lineup. He revealed that the 2 and 3 is going to be Vlad and Santander. And then from there could be Bichette. Could Bo be the 1? Could Bo be the 4? Depending on who we are facing. So we now know that, that was actually a pretty big question mark going forward, because we were unsure if it was going to be Vladdy 3, Santander 4, or Vladdy 2, Santander 3. We knew, or at least we figured, that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Would be followed by Anthony Santander, because it makes the most sense. That's why you got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's why Ross Atkins came out and said they wanted to get him, because of the protection that he adds to the lineup as it pertains to Vladdy himself. But as you start to look at now what this means going forward, right? And again, 2 and the 3, Vladdy, and the reason that John Schneider came out and said that Vladdy's going to be playing in the 2's hole every single game is because he wouldn't be able to sleep with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the bottom of the 9th, missing an at-bat by 1 spot by being in the 3 spot, which, I mean, fair enough. It makes sense. All the analytics these days point to the Toronto Blue Jays, or point to the MLB lineups in general, having your best hitter at the 2 spot. And it makes some sense as you look at what a projected lineup will look like. It has Bo, Vladdy, Santander, and then Springer. Now, this is where it becomes interesting, because if you could have gotten one more bat, now whether that be a leadoff hitter, whether that be a Pete Alonso type, the lineup really starts to look a lot longer. Now they can get this from guys like Bichette, who's had a fantastic spring training thus far. You can get that from other guys, but there were some fan reactions I want to go over, and let me know down below what your thoughts are as well, because I'm curious to see what you guys think of the 2/3 spot being revealed. So I don't like this. Keep Vladdy at 3 and lengthen the lineup. And then the other side, if the lineup 2, 3, 4 is Vlad, Santander, Bo, it's just as long as Bo, Vlad, Santander, which is a very valid point. The question now becomes, who is your leadoff hitter? There's been some rumblings of Andres Jimenez. There's been some rumblings of even Ernie Clement is fast. Will Wagner, I think, makes by far the most sense. But the problem is, he is a young player, right? And he was a prospect when they made the trade for him on the Yusei Kikuchi deal with the Astros. The question then becomes, is he a good enough player to lead off every single day for the Toronto Blue Jays? Because you can see this here. It's too bad the Jays don't have a viable leadoff bat, because the 2, 3, 4 of Vlad, Santander, and Bo is great. And it is great. And that's probably what they're going to run. Vlad, Santander, and Bo. But then who do you put in the 1, and then who do you put after Bichette? Are you going to bounce back or hope for a George Springer resurgence? I don't think at this point there's any world where he bats leadoff anymore for the Toronto Blue Jays. I just don't think that's going to happen. His time is past there. You look at some of the projections, and again, they have George Springer in the cleanup spot. I don't love that at all, if we're being honest. They have Dalton Varsho in the 5 hole. I think Dalton Varsho could get to the point where he's, a very solid hitter. He hit cleanup a bit last year. He hit in the 2 hole. He did a bunch of different things last year. I think the player that is going to be interesting, could move up the most here, is Alejandro Kirk. Now, he's projected to have a 114 WRC plus. Springer's projected to be, a barely league average hitter at 719 OPS plus, or OPS, sorry. It is interesting. And it really starts to, and this lineup has Will Wagner out. I think Will Wagner will start against right-handed pitchers in replacement of probably Joey Loperfido, especially because Dalton Varsho, he started in center field in yesterday's game. You have to assume that Dalton Varsho is going to be ready to go if he's starting in spring training on opening day, which is a huge revelation, because that means, of course, and that lengthens out the lineup more, but also adds other options if you want to keep a guy like Alan Rodin up. And really, Alan Rodin would be a perfect fit for a leadoff guy similar to Will Wagner, because he gets on base a ton, he hits for contact, he doesn't strike out a lot, he gets on base, right? That's ultimately what you want. But it's going to be interesting now, and that's the biggest question they're going to be facing, is that actual leadoff spot. And Bichette has had a fantastic spring. Now, whether Bo's in the 4 hole, whether he's in the leadoff spot, that doesn't really matter for Bo because he's going to absolutely mash. And like he came out and said here, he's enjoying the challenge of hitting leadoff in specific games, and he's fine with whatever spot is needed from him. So obviously it's a good teammate thing to say, and just a good team approach there from Bo. But I mean, he's mashing in spring training, and it doesn't matter until he actually mashes in the regular season. But again, I've been echoing this on the channel a lot. I'll sound like a broken record here. Bo Bichette is going to have a breakout season, and not even a breakout, a bounce back season. And he's been a lead in the MLB at hitting every year besides one. His defense is still questionable, but at the end of the day, the lineup's going to be Vladdy and Tony at 2 and 3, and obviously Tony being Anthony Santander. So that's scary. Good. You put Bo Bichette, let's say you put him 4. That middle lineup is fantastic. It stretches everything down. I think Alejandro Kirk is probably could even end up moving up to the 5 spot or 6, depending on who's the leadoff hitter. I mean, they might go Andres Gimenez as a leadoff. I don't think he gets on base enough. Will Wagner makes a ton of sense. Other than that, you're starting to look at, I mean, maybe they throw George Springer back out there. I mean, Ernie Clement, maybe. Like, there's not a lot of other available leadoff hitters that the Jays really have. And they didn't go out and get one. And they didn't go out and get another bat anyway, because they don't really have a viable leadoff bat. Like Bo Bichette, you'd rather him in the 4 hole, but you might have to force him into the 1 hole. George Springer used to be the viable leadoff bat. He's kind of fallen off. Maybe they try to get him back out there like they did last season. And you can see this lineup here: Bichette, Wagner, Guerrero, Santander, Verso, Springer, Jimenez, Kirk, Rodin. Best offensive lineup versus right-handed pitchers needed. I would tend to agree. I'd probably switch Wagner with Bo, and then switch Vladdy with Bo, and then switch Santander. I'd put Wagner at 1, Bo at 4, Vladdy 2, Santander 3, like similar to how John Schneider's doing it. I don't hate Verso in the 5 hole either. I think he's a very, I think he's gonna have a pretty good year. And then Springer down in the 7th hole is what you need, right? You ultimately need that, or 6th hole, whatever. Yeah, it's the 6th hole. You need him down in the lineup. He still can hit for power. Let him go down in the lineup and not worry about getting on base and swinging for contact, and just absolutely swing as hard as you can, because he's nothing to lose at this point. If he can hit home runs, that would be obviously extremely, extremely good. And even Kirky will be solid out there as well. But it's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. And they also spoke out a little bit on Vladdy playing 3rd. And they said his versatility at 3rd could be more about late game scenarios. There's not a clear first base option who can maximize the lineup. If they're wedged in to bump Vladdy to 3rd, he'll still make the odd start there, but nothing extreme. I mean, I could think of maybe a Relvis Martinez, playing first base if they really don't love his defense and you want to get a guy in who can hit lefties. That being said, that would be a very unique situation, because Vladdy's defense isn't good at 3rd. Neither is a Relvis Martinez. Do you prefer Vladdy at 3rd? That would be the question going forward. And one other thing before we wrap up here is the latest pitching plans. Of course, Gausman pitched on March 5th, followed by Bassett. So today is Yariel Rodriguez. Tomorrow is Scherzer and Dunedin with Francis, and then Berríos, Gausman, Bassett. You're seeing kind of the lineup as it pertains to their rotation starting to figure out, and we'll start to see who's the opening day starter. My guess is it'll probably be Berríos, Gausman, Bassett, Scherzer, and then, of course, Bound Francis. So it's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. A ton of new info coming out. And again, Jays play once again today. Hopefully they can get another win, but the wins don't really matter. What matters is the young guys playing well and everybody continuing to get ready for the regular season, because we're only 3 or so weeks away. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news, so make sure to hit the subscribe button. Cheers.